Fall camp is coming to a close, but we have Michael Katz to tell us all about what happened today.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. I'm your host, Steven Willis, and we will bring in camp insider Michael Katz from the Northeast Mississippi Daily Journal to talk about all of camp and where we sit. Thank you for making Locked On Ole Miss your first listen. Please give us a like, subscribe, and comment on your way out. And hey, all of that can help the show. It's completely free and it makes us much, much better. So that's a lot of fun, and we thank you for that. So let's go to Michael. Michael, it is really interesting because the main takeaway from today is the text message I got from my sources is they're getting ready to start game week, so not a lot is happening. And B, it was really hot. Am I covering the bases there?
I can confirm the latter. Obviously, we're not close enough to hear the specifics, but Lane did tell us that they are probably going to start doing game week stuff. I think at the end of this week is what he said. So yeah, we are right there. I can confirm. Last I checked, feels like 101. So yeah, the indoor practice facility. We always start in there for stretching, and it's really hard to walk outside sometimes. It's like maybe they'll stay inside today.
Listen, and people look at me like I have six eyes on my face when I tell them this, but the summers in Mississippi, and particularly North Mississippi, is actually worse than summers in Florida.
It's brutal, man. And this is my fourth one here, basically. I always forget. I'm like, oh, it wasn't that bad, right? And then I got to August, I'm like, oh, this was bad last time, and then we're doing it again. But we're almost in fall weather. I think it's supposed to be in the 80s next week. Fingers crossed. So it'll feel like fall here soon.
Yeah, the funny thing about that is, like, Little Rock, Arkansas, that was the nearest city that had that. They've had like 450 days of more than 100 degrees since they kept up with it. Do you know how many days that we had in Central Florida over 100 degrees?
It's probably in the single digits.
One, and that was like 2 weeks ago. Was about a lot of stuff on the outside. And then I did a third segment on the offensive line. And the third segment on the offensive line is actually outpacing the rest of the video as it speaks right now. So tell us, Michael, how does the offensive line look and what can we expect? Are there any offensive linemen there?
Yeah, I mean, and Lane brought this up, I guess it was yesterday, that, they're still dealing with a lot of numbers issues there right now. It's like they just get Patrick Kudis back, and then some more guys go down. Again, it's roster skimming season right now. I've been trying to figure out a few numbers. Devin Harper has been getting reps. Who's the other one?
Connor Halls
and John Wayne Oliver. It's guys that you weren't expecting, obviously highly touted guys, but guys maybe you weren't expecting to see in those situations quite yet. That being said, it is still a camp portion of things, and Lane was quick to say he didn't, and he is very coy about these things, so you take it with a grain of salt. But he did say he didn't think that any of the injuries were long-term things. It's a lot of guys riding on the bikes and just kind of taking it easy right now. But, Diego Pounds is still out there. Bryson Sanders is still out there, and Kudis is out there. So I think it's probably frustrating for fans because they just haven't seen it all at the same time yet.
Yeah, they could stop a lot of this by opening one scrimmage. Just open one scrimmage so everybody can see what it looks like instead of all of this rampant speculation that we have going on. I think the offensive line ultimately is going to be fine. The injury news that came out of that automatically got walked back shortly after that. And I think the offensive line eventually is going to be absolutely fine. But I think Lane Kiffin not opening up one scrimmage to where people can see what was going on is probably the cause of all of this.
Well, yeah, and there are a few of my colleagues have yearned for the days of when we used to be able to do a scrimmage. I think my first year here, we went to at least 2 or 3. I think we went to the first 2, my first year or 2 here, and obviously things have changed in terms of how you handle those types of things. But yeah, it would have been a lot of this may have been the issues may have been alleviated if we had seen. Who's the quote unquote real first team is, and who's practice hurt and who's game hurt, those sorts of things.
Yeah, because a lot of this is just basically trying to get them to the season because you know what you have and all of that stuff. So at the practice today, what went on? What happened? What do we need to know?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the last non-game prep type situations. So, I mean, it's been a lot of generic stuff. I mean, they obviously have us leave before the stuff gets real good, which is, I get it. But again, I think for me, I've been watching the lines a lot just to try to figure out how that rotation is working, specifically the offensive line, obviously, because that has been the question mark these last couple of the couple of scrimmages, but just also seeing what the defensive line rotation is looking like. I know we talked about it last week, but that secondary, when you got a guy like Dante Core back there, he's looking good still. I think it's I think that there's obviously it's hard to tell exactly like. At practice, like, okay, they're playing on air a lot of the time. It's like, okay, this guy looks good. Austin Simmons, yes, he throws a beautiful football. We know that. But there have been some moments where like guys like Core in one-on-one matchups have looked particularly good. Caleb Odom has been looking really, really impressive at tight end. I believe he's now listed full-time as a tight end on the roster, and I think we all knew that was going to happen with the injury stuff. That tight end room is, I think, sneaky good too, not just because of the first 2 guys, but Trace Buckler, he's a nice player too.
Yeah, he's somebody that's come on recently. We talked to Dalen Flowers, and he mentioned him last night. When we come back, we will talk to Michael Katz more about today's practice and get all the news and notes from that. So stick around for that. So I do want to tell you this. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the daily fantasy platform that lets you turn your real football predictions into real rewards. Preseason is already heating up, and college football is not very far behind, a couple of days by my calculations. Whether you've got your eye on a big-name quarterback, a breakout running back, Prize Picks make it easy to get in on the action. Maybe it's just the hard knocks going on, but right now I'm a huge Josh Allen guy. And I think this might be the year for the Buffalo Bills. Prize Picks put all their members first, so all the withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. So download the Prize Picks app today and use the code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, to get $50 off your lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. Prize Picks, run your game. Listen, when I'm on top of my hydration, I notice everything works better. My energy, my mood, my focus, even my skin. But getting enough fluids every day, it's not always easy. That's why I've been loving Drip Drop. Drip Drop is doctor-developed and scientifically proven for fast hydration. It uses the perfect balance of sodium, electrolytes, and glucose to help your body absorb fluids quickly, delivering 3 times the electrolytes and half the sugar of the leading sports drink. My go-to flavor right now is cherry limeade. It is a game changer after a workout or on those busy days. Walking twice a day like I do in the Florida heat, it can be draining, but Drip Drop helps all of that. Right now, Drip Drop is offering Locked On listeners 20% off your first order. Just head to dripdrop.com and use the promo code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word. That's dripdrop.com, promo code LOCKEDONCollege for 20% off. Stock up now before the heat hits really hard. If you're running a business, every missed call is money left on the table. Think about the last time you needed a service. If you didn't get an answer, did you wait? Probably not. You moved on. That's why you need Open Phone, so you never miss an opportunity to connect with your customers. Open Phone is the #1 business phone system designed to streamline and scale your customer communications. Do you juggle 2 phones just to keep business and personal calls separate? Open Phone has solved that instantly. Your whole team can share one number and respond to customers like a shared inbox. No more who's handling this. And the AI agent handles after-hours calls, answers common questions, and captures leads, so I never miss a customer again. See why over 60,000 businesses trust Open Phone. They're offering Locked On listeners 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/lockedoncollege. That is openphone.com/lockedoncollege. They'll even port over your existing numbers for free. Open Phone, no missed calls, no missed customers. So, Michael, we were talking about the tight end room, and Caleb Odom, I don't think he participated in the last scrimmage at all. He is somebody that can be a true red zone weapon, and I think he is a player that has millions of dollars at his fingertips if he just takes the tight end role by the horn.
Yeah, I know that's been a conversation on message boards and whatnot, that he obviously wants to be a receiver, and that was part of the issue at Alabama and whatnot. But listen, he came into one of the most stacked receiver rooms Ole Miss has had in a very long time, and that's saying something. If you want to get on the field, like this is it, and he's got a chance, like you said, to make a lot of money. There is so much money for tight ends who are red zone monsters, matchup nightmares. The Jimmy Grahams, the Antonio Kateses, all those sorts of guys. Obviously the blocking probably has a little bit of work to do, but I don't think they're going to put him in positions where he's going to be, doing those sorts of things. I mean, Trace Buckler is a guy who is like, I love blocking. Like he takes a lot of pride in blocking. He is a guy that you can have do more traditional things probably, and Daquan Wright as well. They flexed out Daquan a lot as well. I think that if Odom, like you said, if he buys into it, and it's hard to tell. They say the right things at this time of year. It's easy when the games haven't started yet, and then the balls haven't started really getting thrown around. But we said in the spring, like even when he was at wide receiver, that's just a different body type, right? At tight end, it's still a different body type because he's lean, he's lengthy. There's a place for the guys like that in the NFL for sure. So, I think that if like you said, if he takes it by the horns, I think there's an opportunity for him to not only have a big season or a big couple seasons at Ole Miss in terms of the touchdown numbers, but there's going to be a lot of money there too.
Yeah, there's a question we had from our insiders group that they wanted me to ask you specifically. Have you noticed the safeties picking up on playing safety? I know it's been kind of a revolving chair back there, but have you noticed them picking it up?
What do you mean in terms of picking it up?
As far as stepping up, knowing the defense, bus, and all of that. This is from Gary in Memphis, by the way. Yeah,
I think that those two guys, Sage Ryan and Companic, I think they know the assignments, right? I think that they are pretty safe. They might get beat, and then maybe that's just maybe the receivers do something great, or they get put in a bad position, whatever it is. I don't think that mental lapses or anything are going to be an issue for them. Whiteout Williams has really he's been seeing a lot of run. We talked to him I guess it was yesterday. Obviously an interesting story with his career starting at Delta State and had a really nice year at ULM. He's a guy that, he came in late, if I remember correctly. I think it was after spring ball. And it looks like he's gotten the hang of things fairly fast. It looks like there's going to be a place for him too. So I think those three, obviously TJ Banks, there's going to be a lot with him, and he's getting reps. He's looking healthy, and that's obviously huge. Again, a talented kid who, coming into it, I think they were counting on. I think that core is it's pretty solid. And honestly, I know corner is the other situation that people have been talking about other than the offensive line of who's the number one, what is this going to look like? I mean, I think as of right now, it's pretty safe to say Antonio Kite is probably the number one guy, and I don't think that's a huge bold statement. Just you look at the talent and the way that he's been playing in practice. We talked to Chris Graves today, and he's still a really confident kid too. So I think that the secondary as a whole is probably going to be better than people think. Is it going to be a strength? I don't know. The strength is, I think there's no question it's going to be that defensive front. I think that group is just so good and so deep. But obviously secondary is always going to have a bust here and there. I don't think it's going to be the liability that people are hoping it isn't, or are afraid it might be.
Yeah, the funny thing is I quit hearing about the secondary over the last week or so. Everybody's attention is focused on that offensive line unit. That's kind of been earmarked as that. And Antonio Kite, he's somebody that Pete Golding signed at Alabama. He knows that defense. He was recruited for that defense. It's not a surprise that he's doing really well. Just like Trey Amos, when he came in, when Nick Saban recruits a defensive back to play defensive back, that guy can play.
Absolutely. And a guy I forgot was Jalen Braxton. Obviously, he had been out for a bit. Getting him back in the mix is so big too. It's kind of the opposite issue of the offensive line where, the secondary is finally getting their pieces back, and the offensive line is kind of losing theirs right now. But I think Lane alluded to it too, that they feel with the pieces back, they feel pretty good about that room. Is it going to be a bunch of superstars? It's hard to say, but I think that group is going to hold its own better than the fear was when this whole thing started.
Oh, and the offensive line Lane said it was not any long-term stuff. It was nicks. It was little things like that. Do you think going into the Georgia State game, they're going to be just about there, or is there a chance that a couple of the guys just get rested for Georgia State to get them ready for Kentucky?
I wouldn't be surprised, and this is just, an educated guess. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't roll everybody out. If anybody is sort of on the border, if anybody needs an extra week, again, they're what, a 37-point favorite, whatever it is. A couple missing offensive linemen probably isn't going to be make or break in that sort of game. But I think in a perfect world, you probably want to get as many as you can in because you got SEC play the next week. You got to get that cohesiveness. So I think if it's close, they'll probably play. That would be my educated guess. But if someone really needs a little bit of time, I don't think there's any pressure to put someone in a position where it's going to get worse.
All right. What do you have going on this week at the Daily Journal?
Well, tomorrow's actually one of my favorite days. I believe we are talking to the specialists. So we get to talk to another Australian punter and Lucas Carnero. I don't know if you remember last year, but Fraser Messine was absolutely hilarious in his one interview. He absolutely won the room. And I've heard that Oscar Bird is very similar in terms of winning over a room. So I'm excited about that. Again, we're at the very end, and we're kind of running out of guys to talk to as we get through camp. But, I alluded to it last week that I've got a big story I'm working on for game week. Again, can't give too much away, but it involves some science. It involves a lot of interesting things that a dumb writer like me doesn't normally dabble in. So I'm very excited about that. That should probably come out middle of game week, maybe Thursday. Other than that, tomorrow we have practice, and I think that's it for the week. And then we start the normal routine of, I think it's practice on Tuesdays and availability is Mondays and Tuesdays. And, we'll see when we stop getting the media viewing, and then we go from there. But we are so very close. I can't wait to watch Farmageddon this weekend. I'm just happy we're here. We're here.
Yeah. Who do you got in the Farmageddon matchup?
I really like Kansas State. I'm big on their quarterback. I'm a big Avery Johnson guy.
I saw Avery Johnson at the Under Armour All-American game, He was one of the quarterbacks. He's a good player. He's a legit good player. It was one of those things like, I guess it was Michael Van Buren, the guy that went to Mississippi State.
Mm-hmm.
I saw him in the Under Armour game, and you just say, it's like, oh, he's good. He's really good. The fact I do not know why Mississippi State let him go. I cannot figure that out because
he's a really nice player.
Yeah.
And I think he's going to be good at LSU eventually, probably too.
Yeah. It's shocking. LSU's going to have good football players.
Finally, they got a good quarterback.
Yeah, they've needed it. It's been all going against the Tigers for so long. So
yes.
So anyway, thank you, Michael, for stopping by, and we will talk to you later, buddy.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you.
All right. Thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your go-to source for Ole Miss sports. We pride ourselves on offering the most comprehensive perspectives, which is why we're the front door of Ole Miss. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. It helps the show, and it is completely free. Your support means the world to us. For your second listen, check out the Portal Show. Brian Smith has the latest rumors, portal entries, and signings. Be the most informed fan on the rapid changes to college football's landscape. Find the Portal Show on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Hotty toddy, everybody. And remember, analytics is just the old English word that means bad football. We'll see you tomorrow.